Here we go. Right, I think that's it. Yeah, okay. I think we're recording. Here we go. Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. And I'm joined by my good mate, Jackie Smit from Into the Necrosphere.
Greetings.
Into the Necrosphere. There you go. Yeah. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, thank you, mate. Very, very good.
So
how have you been?
Oh, fantastic. Keeping on,
Yeah.
So, yeah, we are doing part 2 of our Napalm Death retrospective. So tonight we are covering the 90s. We are covering the dirty period. We are doing what I call the Colin Richardson years. Although Colin Richardson didn't produce the first album, he did mix it. So that's good enough for me. And there was something about the 90s. Everyone had Colin Richardson production, and they all had the same guy doing the artwork as well. You had the Machine Head album cover. You had Dearly Beheaded. Do you remember them? Do you remember Dearly Beheaded?
Yeah. I remember there was a lot of hype
Disincarnate.
Around when they
they
first
all had
came
that
out.
same scratchy, weird artwork. And yeah, everyone was produced by Colin Richardson. And yeah, shall we, before we get into the actual albums, what's your, because one thing we both said, oh, I can't wait to cover this period, because we both feel it was quite underrated, and it seems to be shat on by a lot of people. And
well, shat on by a lot of people, including, at least partly one of the members of the band, which I'm sure we'll get into.
I wasn't aware of that. But...
Well, yeah, I mean, Barney Greenway famously left the band because of diatribes. And he wasn't away long enough to be away for a full album, but there was a period where there was going to be no more Barney. And
I know he was unhappy with the setup that Earache, because Earache basically got bought by Warner Brothers, didn't they? Warner Brothers were basically seeing that Earache were doing pretty well, from.
No, it wasn't Warner Brothers. It was unless they were the same thing at the time, but it was Columbia. So it was kind of they weren't. I don't think they were bought either. I think it was like a basically like they were just partnering together on like a select number of releases. And it was in the group there was Napalm Death, Fear Him Sinister Despair, Heartwork by Carcass. I think they rolled Cathedral up into that as well. I can't remember if there were any others. I want to say there was Bolt Thrower, but I doubt it. I think there was almost kind of a joke made about the fact that Bolt Thrower would never have been, there would never be any sort of association with with any kind of major label when it came to Bolt Thrower. But Napalm Death, for whatever reason, and I don't know whether it was because they, played Top of the Pops and they'd gained a degree of infamy by the time that Fear and Sinister Despair came out because of kind of the flirtations with the mainstream. There seemed to be quite a lot of anticipation for the fact that, at least Columbia's involvement meant that they thought this album would be quite big, or commercially be quite big. And then they turn out the fucking absolute monster that they turned out. And it was, I mean, you could literally, from the second that Twist the Knife slowly starts, it's a done deal. This is not going to have any commercial appeal whatsoever.
Yeah, it's funny. I knew Barney left, and I knew Barney wasn't happy with the setup, but I didn't think it was because he was unhappy with the music or like the direction or anything.
My understanding, and again, I may speak under correction here. My understanding was that he had left between, or it may have been after the recording of Diatribes, and he kind of said that he was only going to come back on on one condition, and that is that the music moved towards more extreme, or a more extreme direction, which is why there was that change that you heard from Diatribes to Inside the Torn Apart. I mean, Inside the Torn Apart it's not
a sticker there.
There you go.
I was wondering though, did they ever do a release? Because they had the guy who Phil, his name was, I forget his surname.
Phil from Extreme Noise Terror.
Yeah, he's no longer with us, is he? But I know he joined, and I think Barney joins Extreme Noise. Like they literally swapped. Yeah, because Barney did do an album with Extreme Noise Terror, didn't he? But I read somewhere that they recorded an EP with
Damage,
Phil, but it
Damage
was
381 that they did together. But he only left for I think he only left for a year. It was literally like 1996, and then Inside the Torn Apart came out in 1997, so he'd already
Yeah.
returned for that.
But I think as well, I did read somewhere that they did an EP with Phil, but I've never been able to find that. I've never.
No,
Even,
as
I've,
far as I know, that's never been released.
Yeah, maybe they recorded it, but just never released it. It'll be on a box set
you can
in about
imagine a guy
100
like
years'
Shane
time.
Embry will have a ton of stuff just sat in the vault. It'll be interesting to hear what Napalm Death would have sounded like with Phil, but the reality of it is, I mean, Barney is the voice of Napalm. There's no
yeah. No,
at
it's
all.
just curiosity, isn't it? But yeah, I bet Shane Embry's sitting on Aladdin's cave. The stuff he must have,
without a doubt.
Yeah. So yeah, like I say, I think this there's some gems in these 4 albums and in this period. I think with the absolute worst album out of these 4, when you look at a band like Napalm Death, how long they've been going, how big their back catalogue is, insert whatever album here. So let's say Diatribes but if that's as bad as a back catalogue gets, you're in for a good ride with a band.
Yeah.
Think of Morbid Angel, think of but and not only that, I would even go the other way as well. And I'd say a new band, a completely new band had formed in this time, just released these 4 albums and split up, we'd be talking about how underrated that band were today. I think these 4 albums really do stand up. And
I would definitely agree with you on that. I'm partial to them because I got into Napalm Death on Fear and Tennis Despair, so it wasn't I didn't discover them on Scum or on any of the older stuff. I was 7 years old when Scum came out. And Utopia Banished, I knew about the band, but I was still making my transition into listening to heavier music. So I got into those records retrospectively. Fear and Tennis Despair is what really got me into the band, because it came out at the same time as a bunch of other stuff that I was getting into as well, like The Bleeding by Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
But I think was it War Master by Bolt Thrower or The Fourth Crusade, one of the two. But it was like those records were coming out, and I was starting to get into death metal, and Fear and Tennis Despair was kind of one of those things where you knew that if you were getting into this kind of music, you would have to listen to Napalm Death. Everyone likes Napalm Death, so you need to give them a go.
Yeah, I remember when I first was made aware of them, it was just like, yeah. I think the first time I heard of them was when they were on TFI Friday.
And was that when they were still with Lee Dorian, or was that?
No, that was with Barney. It was basically a comedy sketch. They did the whole thing where the audience write in with a letter, and someone said, "How come you never have any thrash metal?"
Yeah,
and it was like, we've got a thrash metal band, and this is a band called Napalm Death, and they did like
to say they're anything but thrash metal.
They did Scum, and they did all the short songs.
Yeah,
and Chris was like, "No, get the camera to follow me. There is a band downstairs," because this isn't a comedy sketch. And they did have 3-4 songs, but they did all the short ones. But I jumped on board with Enemy of the Music Business. I bought this when it came out,
which is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely all the spines all faded. But yeah, this is bloody hell, 2000. Yeah, 23 years.
Well, that was I was about to say, it is insane to think it's 23 years ago, but that record is absolutely astounding. But yeah, Fear and Tennis Despair, I mean, they also got with that Columbia partnership, they did give it a good go. They included it on the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. They tried their best to give that album as much exposure as possible. But I think as I said, I don't think it was never gonna take off the way that they thought that it would, and partly because even if the market was there for death metal to go mainstream, Fear and Tennis Despair wasn't traditional death metal at all. You had like elements of Sonic Youth, Helmet, Swans, loads of different stuff that's kind of tossed into this mishmash, and then you've got a fucking bear doing your vocals, and you've got a drummer in Danny Herrera that literally sounds like he's assaulting the drum kit for the entirety of that record. Like that, to me, Fear and Tennis Despair still has one of my favorite drum sounds of all time, because if you listen to you listen to the drum fills and the rolls and stuff on Hung, on Plague Rages. I mean, it's like assault and battery. It's no,
he is one of the most underrated
it's
drummers. Nuts. Yeah, he's phenomenal. But again, it's just got that. I always say when I review death metal albums, in particular, British death metal album, they have that grey dreariness to them. They capture the fact that it's always raining and it's always grey here. I just thought you know
it's miserable here today, so
yeah,
that ties in nicely.
The bottom of your jeans is damp, and it's it's they always you can always just sort of smell the stale beer of the venues that they're playing and stuff like that. There's something about British death metal that's just set apart, and obviously the British death metal singers have that. They even sing with an English accent, don't they? Yeah, that.
Well, I mean, I'd say with Bonnie, you're really sort of hearing his British accent coming out with, songs on Year and especially on Diatribes. But I mean, I'd say of the records we're going to talk about, the interesting thing is that this is the oldest one, and it's the one I think that has stood the test of time the longest in terms of sound. I don't think when you listen to it today, it sounds like it's aged a lick. It still sounds fresh, exciting, aggressive. There's not parts to the music like you'll hear a lot of metal nowadays, or you hear a lot of stuff from the 90s. At least I do. You go back to it and you can tell like that's a real 90s riff, or that's a real 90s drum fill, that's a real 90s production. This record doesn't have that at all. I mean, it is a genuine timeless classic, and all 11 songs are strong in their own right. So you got standouts. Hung is incredible. Remain Nameless is genius. Plague Rages is absolute genius. But like every single song, if they wheeled it out today and played it live, which they very rarely do, but they could play any of those songs live today, and it would wreck the place. They would absolutely wreck it.
More Than Meets the Eye is a favorite of mine as well. I love that melodic break in the middle, and that song reminds me actually of Stamping Ground.
More Than Meets the Eye, yeah, a little bit. I can see where you'd make that. I mean, they've always been big fans of hardcore and big fans of punk, and I know Ian Glasper kind of comes from the same school, so I'm not surprised that you would hear those same elements in Stamping Ground.
Yeah, Stamping Ground are one of my favorite bands. Anyway, I've done a retrospective on them, and
incredible, absolutely incredible band.
Yeah.
You saw them live, I assume.
Yeah,
I hope multiple times.
Yeah, I saw not as many times as I'd like to have actually, but I saw them at a headline in Underworld, and I actually saw them. Do you know what? I saw Stamping Grounds. It was Hatebreed's first headline show. They had played the Astoria, but they were opening for Slayer. But they played the Garage, and they were supported by Stamping Ground and Knuckle Dust.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and that was
my
awesome.
My first taste of Stamping Ground was Stamping Ground playing at Eastpak Resistance. It was December or January 2003, and you had a bunch of smaller bands during the day. I think Knuckle Dust was on that bill as well, but then you had Stamping Ground, Hatebreed, Agnostic Front, and then Biohazard. And it was like one gear of intensity going up with every successive band. Like I remember getting to the end of Agnostic Front, and I told my friend that was with me, like, oh, there's no way that this is going to get any wilder. Let's just watch one or two Biohazard songs and then we fuck off. I'm tired. And Biohazard started, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
One of the craziest things I've ever seen in my entire life. And to this day, that to me is like that particular show with those four bands playing successively is one of the most intense things I've ever witnessed in my 43 years on this planet.
But yeah, no, I think Carl from Empty Words is one of the best albums to come from this island,
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
The whole back catalog's awesome. We've ended up talking about Stamping.
It took me a while to get my head around A New Darkness Upon Us, but nowadays I love it. Absolutely love it. It's a record I go back to a lot because it's great lifting music.
It was one of those albums, I think, when a band puts out a classic, the follow-up, it's always got that, it has to live up to something that it's not going to be able to. And yeah, I remember at the time it was a bit like, oh, it's not Carl from Empty Words, and there was a song on there, fear is weakness leaving the body,
Pain
and that
is
was,
weakness leaving the body.
what did I say?
Yeah.
Is pain is weakness leaving the body, and that was re-recorded from an old EP. And I remember just preferring the EP version, but the first version of any song you hear, you're always going to prefer. But no, you're right. I think time's been very kind to it. I mean, again, if that's as bad as it got, then yeah, there's nothing to complain about at all.
Yeah. But I have great memories of Fear, Emptiness, Despair as well, and that's, I think, maybe why I've got such an affinity for it. I used to go to, being a 15, 16-year-old asshole wanting to be a rebel, you go to school parties and school dances and stuff like that, and I would always convince the DJ. I'd get, some CD cover of some bollocks somewhere, like, Dance Mega Mix or Now Music compilation or something like that. And then I'd say, play track 2, it's like the new song by, I don't know, whatever was popular at the time. Like it's the Macarena remix track 2. And then they start playing Hung. It was always my go-to is always Hung or Plague Rages. And then, we would just cause carnage until we got kicked out and then it's right on to the next venue. But yeah, it's a fucking fantastic record. Absolutely fantastic. I'd say to this day, as much as I love almost everything that Napalm Death have done, what may be my top 3 favorite Napalm Death albums for sentimental reasons as much as anything else.
Yeah, it captures that. It certainly, these 4 albums remind me of when I started going to gigs and going to Camden and going to all dayers at, that'd be in a basement under a pub somewhere. And yeah, and they'd always have those CD stalls and you'd be buying all this rare stuff. And yeah, no, it's great times.
Yeah.
So, well, let's move on then to the real controversial one is Diatribes. I've got this swanky digipack thing here. And also got the EP Greed Killing, which was meant to be in this, but for some reason I got it separately. But yeah, but I love this front cover as well. It's like something off of Games Master magazine.
I was just about to say it's such a 90s album cover that it's almost unreal.
Now, I think, if people were going to complain about the band going accessible or groovy or nu metal or whatever hyperbole thing you want to say, that this is probably the one they're talking about. This is where they get, they start flirting with industrial sounds and whatnot. But even still, I like this album. And when you think, they say, there's industrial tendencies to it. Well, Justin Broderick was an original member of Napalm Death, and he released one of the greatest industrial albums ever with Street Cleaner.
Well, so, I mean, they shouldn't have been a surprise about it, because every member of the band flirted with industrial music at some point.
Don't forget, the million side projects they're all doing as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, some of them were involved in Me Took Seed. You had, in fact, actually, I think Shane Embry was also involved in Me Took Seed. You had Shane Embry involved in Malformed Earthborns, which was also industrial. You kind of had all these different industrial projects that they messed around with. Maybe, most of them weren't as extreme, or actually were probably a little more extreme, I should say, than Diatribes. I think what put people off Diatribes was genuinely the fact that it was the first Napalm Death record that you could legitimately play with your parents in the room, and they would hear Greed Killing and they'd kind of shake their head in disgust, but they wouldn't tell you to switch it off before they smashed the hi-fi or before they smashed the CD. You couldn't do that with anything that Napalm Death had put out prior to that. But Greed Killing, I'd say Curse to Crawl, Cold Forgiveness maybe as well. These were songs that most normal people would find reasonably accessible, and the culture was different at the time. Like, people lost their minds if a band brought out anything that was different to what they had done previously, or that was slightly less heavy. There was still that idea that, heavier and more brutal and more aggressive is better. And this was just flying completely and utterly in the face of that, which is, I think, why the backlash was there, why it was so significant. That being said, there are some very good songs on it.
I've even got a soft spot for Curse to Crawl. I like that spoken word, that fragile peace exists inside.
You mean the white man rap?
Yeah, and
He's
then but when it kicks in that dun, 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 it's cold.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I'm trying to think, it's not my own worst enemy. There's a song quite late in the album, and I can't remember which one it is now. But sitting to, I was like, this sounds like Prong. Like it's like a sort of, it goes into like this mid-pace sort of groove. And I'm thinking,
I think it's placate, sedate, eradicate.
It may very well may be, yeah. But
it
again,
definitely has
it's
prong vibes, prong energy to it.
yeah. And if the all the worst things that people say is like, yeah, but I don't care. I like that sort of stuff anyway. So
oh dude, I prong I'm a huge fan of. Again, they've fallen on hard times creatively on over their last couple of albums, but around that time I was such a fucking massive fan of Cleansing. I think Rude Awakening had already come out by that point as well. Loved that record. Prove You Wrong, Beg to Differ. I mean, those albums are all absolutely top.
Oh man, I'm going to be doing a retrospective on Prong at some point, and
yeah.
I'll be making the case the later albums is I think they're in another golden age. From
oh really?
Yeah, from Carved into Stone onwards, I think they've been awesome.
I've tried getting into those albums, and I don't know if it's because I'm such a nut hugger for Cleansing, but yeah, I'm not sure I can feel the newer albums. The new West album I don't think is bad. I've heard a couple of singles of that I don't think is too terrible. And if you can give Tommy anything, at least he's not gone as down the drain as he's colleague in Ministry, Al Jorgensen, because I mean Ministry truly is a complete shambles of what they used to be.
Well, you could argue that Tommy probably delayed that because he did join them for a little while, didn't he? But they were another one of those bands that did a farewell tour about 10 albums ago. Yeah.
Well, they were meant to split up on Last Sucker, and then they got back together again, and then they did another album, and then they did they did Relapse, which was fucking awful. Then they did they did a record after that, I think From Beers to Eternity, and that had its moments. The last couple of songs on the album were okay. And then he kind of went away for a bit. He did that solo project, and then he decided to become as woke as you can possibly be. He became like an AI version of like an internet, like a Twitter wokester.
Yeah. That down with the system, but he everything he's calling for is what the system wants anyway.
Is the system? Yeah, he basically started. He started sampling Greta Thunberg, and he's praising Antifa, and he's praising Just Stop Oil on the new album, and it's just like, the issue with him is he traded heroin for soy, and so this is the result.
Yeah.
Yeah, that baby's behavior aside. I mean, songs I like off Diatribes. Glimpse into Genocide, I think, is great. Ripe for the Breaking, I think, is excellent. Placate, Sedate, Eradicate, very, very cool. Those are probably the three that jump out at me that I remember most about the record. Do I go back and listen to this frequently nowadays? Not really. In terms of all the records from that era, this is probably the one I like least. But that being said, I'm with you. If this is the worst it gets in your discography across, I mean, 16, 17 albums that they've done now, you can give yourself a pat in the back. You've done pretty well for yourself.
Yeah. In that time, then we'll get to the albums, but they did a split EP with Colles or Colles. I can never quite sure how to whatever happened to them. They're a good band. I'm sure they must have reformed or something. And then they put out Bootlegged in Japan, where you got a whole concert. Guess where? Really good.
New Mexico.
Yeah, it's a really cool set list actually. And if you do like this period of the band, opening with Antibody, My Own Worst Enemy, More Than Meets the Eye, Hung, Greed, Killing. That's before we go into the older stuff. But you got a 23 song set. That's worth checking out if you can get hold of it. But
you've seen Napalm Death live, have you not?
I've seen Napalm Death more than any other band.
Oh, really?
I'm well over 10 times now.
I'm surprised you have the hearing or you still have most of your faculties left after that. I mean, their shows, I remember seeing them
I
the first
bought
time in
these from the
2000.
merchandise stand
Oh,
at the
awesome.
at the Mean Fiddler.
Well, I'm pretty sure I was at that same Mean Fiddler show that you were at,
We
because
spoke about that, yeah.
yeah, I remember seeing them live and just being fucking blown away. Like, I couldn't believe just how heavy they sounded on stage. You know, like they're a heavy band and they're an aggressive band when you hear them on record, but to really experience Napalm Death, you have to see them live, I believe. Like, if you're, you know,
Definitely, yeah.
I don't think there's too many folks that you would say are Napalm Death doubters. But if you are a Napalm Death doubter, do yourself a favor and see them live, because you will be converted. I do not know of a single person that's seen them live that has not gone, this is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, the first time I saw them was on we're funny enough, it was Wembley Arena. It was Tattoo the Planet, and Slayer it was meant to be Pantera headlining it, but it was rescheduled after September 11th. So Slayer ended up headlining it, and they only did like a half hour or 40-minute set. But we was right at the front, on the barrier, and I'd known of them, but I was like, yeah, I want to check out Napalm Death. They're fucking really heavy. Like, and me and my mate managed to get on the barrier, just because everyone always moves around in between bands, don't they? And it was still quite early in the day, and when they came on, it was like white heat. You could feel the intensity on you.
How did they go over with a Slayer audience?
Yeah, right. It was an all dayer. I mean, you had like Raging Speed on.
Yeah.
There was Defenestration was the opening. Then it was Napalm Death. Then it was Biohazard. Then it was Therapy, of all bands. Then it was Cradle of Filth. Then Slayer.
Sort of sick person put Biohazard before Therapy. Like, I mean, even though at that time, you know, their star wasn't really on the ascent, but I mean, I wouldn't want to play if I were Therapy, frankly, and Cradle of
it
Filth,
may have been the other way
and
around.
Slayer.
But
I was about to say, I would not want to follow that band, not at all. So,
well, this was Biohazard post 9/11. This was like that was still in the air, you know.
Yeah,
and
yeah, they made a whole album about how personally they took that whole business.
Well, yeah, you can imagine. But mate, when I say the whole of Wembley Arena's floor, when they went circle pit, it was join in or get trampled. Basically, the whole of Wembley Arena just moved, and it was awesome.
That's exactly the way it's been when
that day. That was just like, that was fucking amazing. That band was fucking amazing. And then that's when I went out and bought everything I could find. And a bit obsessed ever since, really. But yeah, more than any other band I've seen Napalm Death.
Cool. No, well, as I said, you know, anyone who's listening to this, if you're a Napalm Death doubter, you absolutely have to see them live. One of the best live bands in extreme music. I mean, they've played some pretty wild venues as well. And they also played or not venues but shows. They like the most extreme band to ever play Glastonbury. And it seems from the video footage that I saw that the people weren't, you know, entirely horrified.
Well, I think Glastonbury for a long time had sort of had kind of abandoned metal, and I think especially in the last couple of years, the powers that be are kind of trying to correct the fact that they've abandoned metal for so long, making up for the fact that there's a lot of heritage from this island. You know, a lot of good bands have come from it. The fact that heavy metal was invented here, as well as it was, not only was it invented here, but yeah, it was perfected here. Like even the extreme versions of it with Carcass, Napalm Death, Bolt Thrower, etc., and the bands that came from the original Napalm Deaths, a bit Cathedral, oh bollocks, what are they called? Street Cleanse. What the fuck are they called? Godflesh. You know, they're trying to make up for the fact that they've overlooked it, but now kind of pretending that they didn't overlook it. And so when Glastonbury, the real sort of when the ceiling broke really was when they got Metallica to headline it, and then it wasn't the very next year, but not long after that, they did a stage where I think it was Earache. Wasn't it dedicated to John Peel? Thinking of it, it was something to do with that, wasn't it? But yeah, they had a thing where it was all the Earache bands or legacy Earache bands, and it wasn't just, it was Napalm Death, but I think they did. Is it Wormrot? I think Wormrot played that year as well. and they basically
Shit, I
just
didn't
had an
even know that.
extreme metal stage, and it was
Yeah.
just a way to go, oh, we're cool. But I think, yeah, they, like you say, the audience weren't completely horrified, but I think Napalm Death get a pass by a lot of people, and I think a lot of people will go who aren't really into extreme music will go, right, I'll give Napalm Death a go so I can tick that box and go, yeah, I've done an extreme.
Well, at Glastonbury, they're also more likely to get a pass because of Barney's politics. So, you know, you're not going to.
He did a podcast with the head of Labour at the time. It was all very
yeah.
But
you're not going to get Glenn Benton standing on stage at Glastonbury anytime soon.
That'd be cool if I don't know. You're probably more likely now. I think he's mellowed out a little bit now, isn't he? But yeah,
dude, greatest Glenn Benton performance I ever saw was captured on Iraq did it. It was called When London Burns.
Oh yeah, I got the DVD. Well, I had that DVD.
I was there. So I was just off camera to the side, almost right by the front. And I remember standing in the queue waiting to go into the Mean Fiddler, and this guy walks by and he's got like a half-drunk bottle of Jack Daniels with him. And you can see his 3 sheets to the wind, and suddenly it registers with me. That's Glenn Benton. And he like looks and he like just looks at me and just sort of grins and just walks in. And I just knew this was going to be a fucking show of shows. And if you watch, you watch that video, like you get like from that DVD, you really get the energy coming off the screen. It was the most intense Deicide show I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was made even better by the fact that you've got Dave Suzuki on stage and he's doing the backing screams and stuff like that. So a lot of that energy that I think is lost when Deicide play and they don't have the backing vocals, that was there. You know, Steve is always a beast, but he was really on fire that night. All the songs he was playing faster, and you know, Glenn being completely and utterly hammered meant that he was just ribbing the audience all the time. So he's literally just insulting the crowd in between songs constantly. Is like, you know, he introduces, like, I think it was Dead by Dawn or Dead by Dreaming. He's like, we wrote the song when your parents were having sex in the back seats of cars. Dead by Dreaming.
Is that where he goes, it's great to be back in the land of big tits and fish and chips?
Yeah.
Because there was that one in London, but there's another DVD which I think was filmed in Birmingham. I think
it was filmed in Nottingham.
Was it Nottingham? Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm getting everything wrong tonight.
Christmas. No, I know that because I know Cocker played at that show as well. And I think there's either some footage of that show rolling around or there's like a bootleg recording of it somewhere.
Deicide or Cocker? Yeah, because Deicide it came with an album. It was like an extra DVD.
Yeah,
I think you can buy it on its own. But yeah, all right. Let's crack on with Inside Torn Apart. So yeah, in between diatribes, we get a live album, we get an EP. Barney leaves, does an album with Extreme Noise Terror. Extreme Noise Terror's vocalist joins Napalm Death for a little while. He may have recorded with them, but that's in Shane Ainbury's vault, if it does exist, if it did happen. I heard somewhere that there was a recording, but we'll never know. And then we get Inside the Torn Apart, where Barney comes back. I've got two versions of this for some reason. I think I got this one on the cheap because it came with some bonus tracks. But I bought that 100 years ago.
Yeah, it was like the Japanese import that came with bonus tracks. That was always like the thing to get if you're going to buy music.
When it first comes out,
you'd get like the Japanese digipack because it always had like 3-4 songs that you were never going to hear anywhere else.
But yeah, pretty much, it's not so much of a leap forward or anything like that. It's kind of coming back to the fear, emptiness, despair period, but pretty much just straightforward death metal on this one. I think that's more the next album. There's a bit of experimentation with clean vocals. I think that's the next album, actually. But
there's some
I can't remember
like
now.
Not necessarily clean vocals, but
where I've been binging these albums this week, it's all sort of blurred into.
Yeah. On the title track of this album, there's not necessarily clean vocals, but there's like shouted vocals. That I've always
do we fake to feel? Yeah, that one. But
yeah. But it's
that's quite still a regular in their live set, actually. They normally roll that one out sort of mid set.
What, Breathe to Breathe?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen
No,
it a couple of times.
I've heard that, but I've always felt about Inside the Torn Apart that this is the album that they probably were aiming to make, and then they went a little too far left field, and Diatribes came out.
Mm-hmm.
Because this has a lot of similarities to Diatribes in the sense that you've got a song that's a bit more upbeat, that frankly sounds a little bit more major chord based and happy in Breathe to Breathe, similar to Greed Killing. And then you've got kind of similar motifs through the record as well, like, you know, Birth and Regress. You know, it has that similar kind of mid tempo break halfway through the song that you had on Glimpse into Genocide. There's a lot of like little touches like that where you go, yeah, you guys kind of did something similar on Diatribes, and yeah, you're doing it again, but you're adding a little bit more extremity to it. It's just a little bit more bite that maybe Diatribes was lacking. And again, I've always loved this album. It's you know, it's got more songs like in total that I think are great versus Diatribes. I think all of the performances are really, really on song. I think Colin Richardson did a great job of the production. And on my grade 12 shirt, I don't know if you guys have this as a not, I was about to say not ritual, as a tradition in your schools over here in the UK. But in South Africa, you'd have your white shirt and all your stupid little schoolmates and the girls you
Oh
like.
yeah.
They sign
Get
it.
everyone to sign your shirt.
I
Yeah.
had Inside the Torn Apart like massive emblazoned on my back. I had it like photocopied. So I had the cover as the back of my shirt.
Oh man, I wasn't as cold as you. I was I was into Slipknot when I left school. So
Well, when I had that on because it was the one thing I knew I could get away with. Like if I put Legion, you know, if I put the Legion cover on, or if I put Domination or Covenant or anything like that on, in my school in particular, there would have probably been some pretty severe repercussions. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's good times. Thinking, I think I had the non-uniform day. I had a Slipknot shirt with the "People Equal Shit" thing on the back, and
oh
thinking I was all.
really?
But I don't think anyone actually noticed it. That was the thing. I didn't get the reaction I wanted, but because just no one was taking any notice. But
Yeah.
there you go.
By the time Iowa came out, I'd already checked out when it came to Slipknot. I actually did quite
That
like.
was my gateway, though. I mean,
Oh really?
that was like my last year at school. So we, you
Yeah.
know, Colin and stuff like that. Then Slipknot was just like wow. But then that was my gateway into heavier stuff. And then as I started going to college, I was started going to hardcore shows. One of my mates, well, Luke, who I do Maiden Cast with, his band opened for Knuckle Dust. So then I got from Knuckle Dust then to Stamping Grounds. So then I started getting into hardcore shows, and then bit by bit discovered death metal. My gateway into death metal was at the Gates, and you could say Napalm Death. I mean, it all sort of blends together, doesn't it? And just at that point, where a lot of my mates at school would sort of be Korn, Slipknot, and that was as heavy as they went. I went completely full pelt and just kept looking for the heaviest thing I could find, and just kept going and going and going. While a lot of my mates at school,
Yeah, when new metal
abandoned
came
it.
out, I was already into black and death metal. So I detested new metal when it first came out. Like I really
Yeah,
hated it.
that's where I
Like I
jumped on
hated
board. So
Deftones,
yeah,
Korn, Limp Bizkit, everything. And it was only later on, like after school, I wouldn't say I mellowed out, but I kind of I think with Limp Bizkit actually, what made me get some respect for them was I saw the Woodstock show. And I know obviously there's a lot of controversy around it. I don't agree with the comments that it was Fred that, you know, instigated the riots and stuff like that. And, you know, he's not responsible for the behavior of a bunch of drunk knuckleheads in an audience. But I don't personally think that you can watch that show and not say that's one of the greatest live performances that a man and a band ever put on. I mean, it was fucking wild. Like 250,000 plus people just losing their mind. And if you watch it, I've studied that show so many times now because I'm a little obsessed with Woodstock 99 as an event just generally, because it was kind of it was really sort of I was 19 years old. It was right before I came to the UK. It kind of feels like the end of an era, like the close of a chapter in my life. But if you watch that show, the way that he's orchestrating and managing the crowd and engaging with that crowd and like projecting so much energy, you know, from the front to the back, it's a fucking masterclass. Genuinely, any prospective frontman who wants to know how to put on a good show and how to master audience interaction and audience engagement, they absolutely have to study that. That's mandatory. That should be part of the mandatory curriculum. But anyway, that Limp Bizkit show made me kind of go, okay, well, maybe I'll give Limp Bizkit's music a try because I like the show. The music I never got into so much, but I did start to develop a bit of an affinity for like Deftones. When I saw Slipknot, or the first show I saw when I was in the UK was Slipknot in Flames. And they were supported by American Head Charge, and I really liked American Head Charge so much.
A lot of people like American Head Charge, actually. Yeah,
their first album, War of Art, is fucking brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I liked them so much that I left 2 songs into Slipknot because I was like, this is so boring. I don't want to see it anymore.
Well, here's an odd one. I've just told you I've seen Napalm Death since 2000, around that time. I've seen them over 10 times. I've never seen Slipknot live ever.
I've only seen them, obviously, the ones, like I said, I left off.
But you'd think all of my years gigging, I would have seen them. I've never seen them. Never. The first time they ever played was the Astoria, and I was really pissed off because that sold out really quick. And then the next time they came, it was Brixton Academy. That sold out. And then it was London Arena, Docklands Arena. And at that point, I was just like, I've never really liked arena shows. Unless it's Iron Maiden or someone like that, I won't go.
My first Rammstein show I ever saw was London Arena.
Yeah.
And then I saw them at Brixton, and then I saw them at the Milton.
And then I just sort of fizzled away from them anyway. But no, I've never actually, but even festivals and stuff like that, I've never seen them.
The only new metal album that I unashamedly like from start to finish, and that I think I think it's a masterpiece, and people will be shocked and probably give you a thumbs down as soon as I say this.
Well, I think we're getting a thumbs down anyway because we're talking about Napalm Death, and we've ended up talking about Limp Bizkit and
Static X, Wisconsin
Death Trip. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that album. I can't tell you how much I love it. It to me, to this day, it's fantastic. It's a 12 out of 10 record, and it's so simplistic, and on some level it's so stupid because the riffs are literally just rhythms.
The lyrics are ridiculous as well.
Yeah, the lyrics are insane, but I love it. There's something about it that just absolutely.
Funnily enough, I watched a few clips. I was watching a few. Yeah, no, I watched the whole concert, but I was just skipped ahead. But I wanted to see what this new guy looked like with the mask and the effects and everything, because he comes out now, he's like a robot, like a cyborg of.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what it looked like, and I was watching a few things, and I was like, bloody hell, what, these have got some more songs than what I thought. And I was just like, I know this one. Yeah, I watched this one because I know this one. I ended up. So I can't believe how many songs this band had. And yeah, it was predominantly that first album, and it's like, yeah, that album's aged pretty well. Yeah,
brilliantly well. Like a song like "The Trance Is the Motion" or anything like that, just it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we get to the last one?
I'm about to say getting back on track.
Yeah. So then after that, again, I bought this album from the merch stand at a gig 100 years ago. Now, if we would say as much as underrated these albums are, this isn't so much as underrated. It seems to be unknown. Everyone forgets this album. Everyone.
Yeah, you're right. Well, they'd kind of almost been written off by this point, I think. I think folks that had tuned into them on Harmony Corruption, they wanted to hear more death metal, and they weren't getting that with Diatribes or Inside the Torn Apart. People that got into them on Scum, but they'd long ago checked out. People that got into them, even on Fear, Emptiness, Despair, they were like, yeah, Fear, Emptiness, Despair was good, but the next albums just weren't going the same route. So I think they were in a bit of a no man's land, I think, when they did this record. And this to me is a really good bridge to Enemies of the Music Business, because obviously Enemies of the Music Business is a real, and we'll talk about that next time we do one of these, but it's a real leap forward in terms of extremity, anger. I mean, Barney sounds like he's been taking steroids. I don't know how he gets the steroids in with the vegan food that he eats, but that's his business. But But yeah, this album, I totally agree with you. It's a shame that it's a it's a shame that it's an album that is so overlooked, because there's such a real ton of good songs on here. I mean, Next of Kin to Chaos, brilliant. Clutching at Barbs, absolutely fantastic. Thrown Down a Rope, amazing. I'm trying to see. None the Wiser, fucking sensational. Cleanse Impure, sensational. It was a genuinely very, very good album, and it retained some of the best elements of their experimental stuff, but it really kind of upped the aggression as well.
There's a bit of playing around with clean vocals on this one as well, if I remember rightly. And what I think as well, if we say, right, Fear, Emptiness, Despair, if you 90s death metal that's dark and dreary and cold, and it's even melodic and subtly melodic in some places, this is the underrated classic. If you've gone, yeah, they went all Fear Factory on this one, for better for worse, maybe, but it's still pretty good. This one's pretty straightforward death metal, but I think they go hardcore on this one. And when I mean hardcore, I mean Discharge. I think there's a lot of like that sort of punk drum beats on this one.
Yeah, a little bit. I'll tell you another thing I really like about this album is the guitar sound. Like if you listen to Clutching at Barbs, for example, there's a real kind of crunch to the guitar sound, and it's not a million miles away from what they've been doing, but I don't know what Colin Richardson did differently in the mix. There was just something about the sound of this record that I really, really, really liked, and again, that I don't think has grown old at all.
One thing that's worth mentioning, actually, when you talk about a mix, in the last album, I forgot to mention, Inside Torn Apart, produced by Colin Richardson, but mixed by Andy Snape.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And he didn't turn, he ended up pretty successful, all things considered.
But to say, would go on to become a bit of a legend. I mean, early 2000s. I mean, he was in huge demand. I mean, like bands. I know this for a fact because I spoke to Warrell Dane from Nevermore about it. I know for a fact the guy had a waiting list that was literally like 12, 13 months.
Yeah, but even still, it wasn't to be shaking a stick at, but he still wasn't on your Judas Priest and your Megadeth's radar, was he? As much as he was in demand and the CV that he had, but he's just gone even beyond now, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, but you look at what he was involved in the 90s. So he did Napalm Death, Inside the Torn Apart. He did the mixing for that. He did the More Things Change by Machine Head, which is it's a great sounding record. He did Dead by Obituary. He did The Gathering by Testament, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, that's a masterpiece.
Dead Heart in a Dead World by Nevermore, incredible record. I mean, the list goes on. Opeth, Deliverance. He did the remix for Nevermore's Enemies of Reality. Exodus, Tempo of the Damned. Obviously, he did Stamping Ground as well, which is really good. So
I didn't know he did Stamping Ground.
Yeah, he did A New Darkness Upon Us.
Oh, right. I didn't realize that. Oh, okay. Yeah. I just don't think I looked. But yeah.
Let me just double check that. I'm pretty sure that he did.
Oh, I wouldn't. Yeah, no, I believe you. I just didn't know.
He did Cradle of Filth, Pornography, and Godspeed on the Devil's Thunder as well. But
yeah, I thought he would have done a couple of because
I've never been a
Sabbath is that. I think Danny Filth formed Cradle of Filth from wanting to be in Sabbath. Really, I think that's his dream. He's as successful as Cradle of Filth is. He wants to be in Sabbath. He wants Sabbath to reform with him.
First time I ever saw Akrakoka was seeing them support Cradle of Filth.
Yeah,
and that was it was the start of my love affair with Akrakoka, and it was the final nail in the coffin with Cradle of Filth. Because once you've seen, and this was in the good old days.
I was never taken.
There with the long hair, with a suit and stuff like that. This was like prime Akrakoka.
I saw Akrakoka in the suit years, but
next level.
I've seen Cradle of Filth a number of times without going to see them, if you know what I mean. They've always been part of a package or a festival or whatever, and I've always enjoyed them live. But I've never ever bought any of their albums. I've just never clicked with them to listen to. But I've always enjoyed them live. I've always thought,
I was when Principle of Evil Made Flesh came out. I was a fan of that, and I liked the Vampire EP when it came out too. But then very shortly after, because it was like, when I say we, it's like me and my circle of friends, when we got Vampire, we also got Ceremony of Opposites by Sam Isle, we got Emperor, we got Satyricon, we got Burzum. And then from there on out, it was like, you can't listen to In the Nightside Eclipse and then listen to Dusk and Her Embrace and go, oh, these two are on the same level.
Yeah,
Dusk and Her Embrace is music for men that wet the bed, and grown-ups that play Magic the Gathering. It's not for serious people. It's like when you listen, like I said, when you listen to Dusk and Her Embrace, not Dusk and Her Embrace, you compare it to In the Nightside Eclipse, Nemesis Divina, any of the classics. It's just it's like you get a taste for that Norwegian goodness,
Emperor,
and you just can't get enough.
Yeah, those early albums were amazing. Yeah, they were pound for pound. They'd probably have my vote actually. Emperor. Funnily enough, the band of black metal, which I've fallen out with death metal, not black metal, in the last couple of years, but band that I like, where I liked everything they did, was funnily enough was 1349.
Yeah, 1349 is very good.
If you said to me what's the best album, yeah, I'll probably pound for pound, yeah, probably Nightside Eclipse. You say Dom Santonos and Mysteros,
Mysteries Dom Satanas. 1349 I like very much. I think they've got some great records in their back catalog. I like Beyond the Apocalypse. I know, even though that's not the most popular choice. I think Hellfire has some very, very, very good tracks, as does Demenoir. But from that era, I mean, they had started prior to that, but the real deal for me was Gorgoroth. When they put out Twilight of the Idols and they put out Ad Majorum Satanas Gloriam, that was such a step change for me in where black metal was headed as a genre. And then you started, then Mortus joined Marduk, and Marduk started putting out just a streak of incredible records, starting with Plague Angel, Romans 5:12, all of those. Yeah, that was, to me, black metal kind of was rejuvenated by I've spoken about a lot of my podcast. I really think Gorgoroth, that 1-2 satanic punch of their 1-2 satanic combo of theirs, I think that broke black metal away from where it was going, which was down the road of, like I said, fucking losers sitting by the riverside crying, and just this too much of a focus on atmosphere over aggression. Like, the atmosphere is fine, but you have to have the urgency, and you have to have the severity there for black metal to be effective, in my view.
Yeah. Well, let's sum up then this 4-year period of underrated Napalm Death, and let's clear it up for once and for all. For all the doubters, these 4 albums are gold, and are definitely worth re-evaluating and revisiting, because they are packed with hidden gems, and we didn't even touch the surface. Jackie's on a tight schedule, so we got to sum things up pretty quickly. But yeah, what's your take in summing up these 4 albums?
My favorite, without a doubt, Fear, Emptiness, Despair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Followed by Words from the Exit Wound, then Inside the Torn Apart, then Diatribes. But like I said, the one I come back to over and over again, and I love it for sentimental reasons as much as anything else, Fear, Emptiness, Despair. It's a very exciting time of my life when I was discovering a lot of new music, and the fact that it has stuck with me for so many years, it says an awful lot about the album. And everything from the album cover through to the way it sounds, through to the lyrics, through to the production, it's just perfection.
Yeah, definitely. Right, well, I'm going to let you get on. I'm going to put Jackie's YouTube channel in the description. There's no way you watch my channel and don't watch his, but I'm going to put a description to it anyway. What you got coming up quickly on your next show, or have you got one that's just come out?
So I've just had Aaron from Paradise Lost. So the second time he's been on the podcast, that was really, really good. We spoke about Icon, and given that I had his attention, we also spoke about one of my favorite Paradise Lost albums, which is Shades of God. And it seems to be that anytime I have someone from Paradise Lost on, we tend to go to that. And then this coming Tuesday, so it's going to be the 14th, I think. I've got everyone from Fuming Mouth. So Martin Whelan, for anyone that doesn't know, from Fuming Mouth, he has recovered from a really horrendous battle with leukemia that lasted about 15, 16 months. So we spoke at length about that. The new Fuming Mouth album is absolutely sensational. So we got to talk about that a bit. And then I've got a couple of other exciting ones in the pipeline. Chris Pervilis from Internal Bleeding is back on the show. And I've got a couple of others. I've got a couple more episodes before
Frank
I wrap
Creaney
up
is a regular on this show. So
yeah, Chris is my kind of cat. You know, he's into the finer things in life. And you know, he's got a similar outlook on life that I do. So I'm looking forward to getting him back on. And then there's really exciting stuff coming next year. So I'll share more maybe when I'm on again.
Yeah.
But there's going to be more in-person episodes next year with bigger bands. I think next year is going to be absolutely huge. And also one last thing, if anyone hasn't seen it yet, I had Attila from Mayhem on for my episode 200, and that was, to me, that was like the greatest achievement I could ever have dreamed of when I started this podcast.
Right. Well, it's great having you on, mate. I love talking to you. We didn't even scratch the surface, but you're going to be coming back on soon, and we're going to be starting. I don't know what period we're going to cover, but we're going to be starting with Enemy of the Music Business. And I think what will be the new golden age, really, of Napalm Death. I'm really excited to be talking about that. And yeah, it's great having you on, man. Thanks for coming. And we haven't even started talking about grilling yet. So that's another subject we've got
we'll definitely do that soon.
So yeah,
cool. All right.
Great having you, man. Thanks for coming.
All right,
and
brother.
Thanks for watching as always, guys. Give us one of them if you've got this far into the video, and I'll see you all soon.
Cheers.